By the end of this video, you'll see reality in a completely different way. What happens when an ordinary afternoon can turn into a nightmare in the blink of an eye? Before we dive in, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more gripping stories, behind-the-scenes clips, and real-life social commentary videos. The city stretched endlessly before him, a horizon of cracked concrete, graffiti-soaked overpasses, and the faint shimmer of coastal haze under the early afternoon sun. Ethan Cruz adjusted his camera strap as he stepped out of the rideshare, blinking against the glare. Los Angeles. The name alone still carried weight, like a myth people kept believing in even after it broke their hearts. His sneakers met the uneven sidewalk with a soft crunch. Day one, he muttered into his mic, flipping on the camera. The little red light blinked alive. We're in the City of Angels, downtown L.A., baby. People call it the Dream Factory. Let's see what's really left of that dream. The lens caught a panorama of life and decay, a taco stand with peeling paint, a half-collapsed billboard advertising the future of electric living, and a cluster of tents just beyond the corner, where the freeway shadowed the street in constant gray. A homeless man muttered something unintelligible as Ethan passed. The air smelled faintly of smog and cinnamon churros. He panned the camera. If you're new to the channel, I do street culture and urban truth vlogs. No filters, no edits. Just the city. Raw. He smiled faintly, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. Ethan had been vlogging for years, but the thrill was different now. The world felt tense. The comment sections always turned political, no matter what he filmed. A squad car rolled by slowly, lights off, but presence heavy. Two officers inside, one staring straight ahead, the other scanning the street like he expected it to bite back. Ethan lowered his camera slightly, instinctively wary. The vibe was off, not like the other cities he'd filmed in. Here, the silence between sirens was the loudest sound of all. He turned down a smaller street where murals bloomed across brick walls, portraits of jazz legends, freedom fists, children with halos painted behind their heads. A group of kids chased each other with melting popsicles, laughter echoing briefly before dissolving under the roar of a passing chopper. At the end of the block stood an old ice cream parlor, sun-faded awning flapping lazily in the warm wind. The place looked out of time, a remnant of an L.A. that had once believed in innocence. Inside, the hum of an ancient freezer mixed with the tinny jazz from a corner speaker. Ethan took off his cap and ordered a scoop of mint chocolate. That's when he noticed them. A man and a little girl at the counter. The man, mid-30s, athletic build, brown skin the color of earth warmed by sunlight, wore a mechanic's jumpsuit, grease stains marking the fabric. His daughter, no older than 8, had tiny braids laced with pink beads that clicked softly when she moved. She laughed as she pointed at the menu. "Chocolate chip, please," she chirped, voice bright and bubbling. The man smiled, shaking his head. "You sure that's what you want, Amira? You always change your mind halfway through." Amira giggled. "I'm sure this time, Daddy." Ethan couldn't help smiling as he adjusted his camera, quietly recording a bit of the scene. Not for upload, just for the texture of the day. The father's patience, the child's joy. The kind of moment the internet often forgot to see. The man caught his glance and nodded politely. "You filming something?" "Yeah, just doing a city vlog, exploring L.A. "Ah," the man said with an easy grin. "Be careful out there. Folks are on edge lately. Cops everywhere, people talking about protests. It's like the city's holding its breath." Ethan nodded. "I can feel it. It's different here." He introduced himself, and the man offered his name. Marcus Hall, a local auto repair worker, raising his daughter alone since his wife passed. They chatted lightly, while Amira devoured her ice cream, chocolate smudges decorating her cheeks. Outside, the light began to shift. Shadows stretched longer, and a distant siren wailed, faint but continuous. Marcus glanced toward the window, his smile dimming. "Something's going on again," he murmured. "Been like this all week." Ethan followed his gaze. Down the street, two police SUVs rolled slowly past, their blue lights spinning silently. Pedestrians moved aside, the air around them suddenly taut. Marcus exhaled heavily. "I hate when she sees this kind of stuff." Ethan's instinct, the vlogger's reflex, kicked in. He reached for his camera. "Mind if I walk a bit with you, just to capture the vibe outside?" Marcus hesitated, then shrugged. "Sure, just keep the camera on me, not her. She's too young for the internet circus." They stepped out into the brightness. The street had changed in subtle ways. Fewer voices, heavier glances. Amira held her father's hand tightly, the beads in her hair swaying with each step. Ethan walked a few paces back, camera steady, documenting without intruding. Through the viewfinder, the composition was perfect. A father and daughter crossing the sunlight, hand in hand, an emblem of quiet resilience. Then, faintly at first, came the sound of engines, more than one. Marcus slowed, frowning. "Stay close, baby." Ethan zoomed in slightly. 3 police cruisers turned onto the street, their lights flashing silently. No sirens, no commands, just a slow, deliberate glide that carried threat more than order. The ice cream slipped from Amira's hand and splattered against the sidewalk. Ethan's pulse quickened. He kept filming, uncertain whether to stop. One officer stepped out, hand resting near his holster. "Sir, step aside from the vehicle." Marcus blinked, confused. "What vehicle?" "Now." Ethan flinched at the tone. Marcus raised his free hand slowly, instinctively protective. "Officer, I'm just—" The second cruiser door opened. Another officer approached. This one younger, eyes cold, fingers twitching at his weapon. "Don't move," Amira whimpered, clutching her father's leg. Marcus's voice broke. "She's just a child, please." The street was frozen, sunlight cutting across concrete, shadows stretching like claws. Ethan's camera trembled in his hand, recording everything. He wanted to speak, to intervene, but fear locked his throat. The officer's radio crackled. "Unit 4, you've got the wrong ID. Stand down." But the message came half a second too late. A sharp motion, a shout, a gunshot. The sound was unreal. A hollow thunder that echoed off the buildings and through the camera mic, raw and unbearable. Marcus staggered backward, blood blooming across his chest. Amira screamed. Ethan dropped the camera in shock. It tumbled sideways, lens cracking but still recording. Through the distorted frame, the world fell apart. Boots running, shouts blurring into static, a child's cries cutting through everything. Marcus collapsed beside the melted puddle of chocolate ice cream. Ethan's vision swam. The officer who fired stood frozen, weapon still raised, face pale. The other officers moved fast, securing the scene, barking orders, forming a wall of blue around the fallen man. "Cameras down! Everyone, phones down!" A hand grabbed Ethan's shoulder. "Delete that footage now!" He tore free and bolted down the street. Voices shouted behind him. "Stop him! He's filming!" He didn't look back. He just ran. Past startled pedestrians, through alleys, lungs burning. His camera clutched tight, the cracked screen still faintly red with the blinking wreck. He ducked behind a dumpster, chest heaving, hands trembling so hard the footage jittered. On the playback, he could still hear Amira's voice screaming for her father. Then, silence. Only the faint whir of the camera's dying battery and Ethan's rasping breath. He whispered hoarsely, "Jesus Christ. What did I just film?" Somewhere in the distance, more sirens wailed. But this time, they sounded like mourning. He glanced at the camera's memory light, still blinking faintly. He didn't know it yet, but what he held in his hands wasn't just footage. It was a fuse, one that, once lit, would burn the whole city down. The sound of sirens faded behind him, replaced by the rhythmic thud of his heart and the static hum of the camera in his grip. Ethan leaned against a rusted gate in a narrow alley, gasping for air. His palms were slick with sweat, his fingertips still trembling from the echo of the gunshot. He swallowed hard. The air tasted of exhaust and fear. In the distance, a police chopper swept across the skyline, its spotlight slicing through the dusky haze. He flinched instinctively, pressing himself deeper into the shadows between dumpsters. His backpack hung half open, the broken camera clutched to his chest like a living thing. The red record light blinked faintly through a spiderweb crack in the lens. He pressed the power button. The screen flickered. Static, glitch, then image. Marcus Hall's body on the pavement. Amira's scream. Boots rushing in. Someone yelling, "Delete that footage!" Then black. Ethan's throat tightened. He shut the screen and pressed the camera to his forehead. Jesus. He'd filmed street fights, evictions, even riots before. But this was different. This wasn't chaos. It was execution. His phone buzzed. A text from Danny. "You still in downtown? Heard gunshots near 7th. You good?" He hesitated, then typed back with shaky fingers. "I saw it. I got it on camera." The typing dots appeared, then vanished. When she finally replied, it was a voice note. Her voice low, urgent, the way it got when she was scared but trying not to sound it. Listen to me. If you really got something like that, don't post it. Not yet. Go home. Lock your door. You know what happens when people leak this kind of thing." He stared at the message. You know what happens. Yeah. He knew. There had been other videos, blurry, disputed, buried under hashtags and misinformation. But he'd never seen something so clear, so damning. No ambiguity, no angles to twist. Ethan zipped the camera inside his bag and slipped out of the alley, blending into the crowd moving toward the metro station. The city buzzed with a strange tension, people whispering, phones out, trying to find where the commotion had started. He caught fragments of conversation. Somebody shot near Broadway. Said it was the cops again. You sure it wasn't fake? They're saying it's edited already. Ethan kept his head down. The streets felt like a living thing holding its breath. By the time he reached his apartment in Koreatown, the sun was gone, replaced by the violet shimmer of neon signs and the low hum of traffic. His building was old, cracked paint on the walls, flickering hallway light that buzzed like a dying bee. He locked the door behind him, double-checked the bolts. His roommate, Zane, was sprawled on the couch, controller in hand, a half-eaten pizza on the table. "Yo," Zane said without looking up. "You look like you saw a ghost." Ethan dropped the bag to the floor. "Worse." Zane paused his game, brows lifting. "How worse we talking?" Ethan met his eyes. "They killed someone, man. I saw it. A guy. In front of his kid." Zane's face paled. "Cops?" "Yeah. Holy shit." Ethan unzipped the bag and took out the camera. "It's all here. I got the whole thing." Zane stared at it like it was radioactive. "Bro, that's big. Like national headline big. You can't just..." "I know." He connected the camera to his laptop. The screen flickered, loading the corrupted file. The image wavered, sound cutting in and out, but the essential truth remained. The moment the shot was fired, the chaos that followed, the voice yelling to delete it. Zane leaned forward, hands clasped over his mouth. "Jesus, Ethan, you can't just keep that. They'll come for it." Ethan stared at the playback. The digital timestamp blinked on the corner of the screen. Oct. 6, 2025, 1742. He zoomed in slightly on Marcus's face, peaceful, almost disbelieving, before the frame blurred with movement. "Maybe they already know," Ethan murmured. "What?" "The cops. One of them saw me filming. He yelled at me to delete it. I ran. Zane cursed under his breath. You gotta back that up now. Multiple drives. Cloud, encrypted, whatever. Don't let that file exist in only one place. Ethan nodded numbly and started copying the footage. Progress bar. Uploading. 12%. He sat there, watching it inch forward, the fan of the laptop whining softly. His reflection ghosted faintly against the screen. Tired eyes, streak of dirt on his cheek. A man who hadn't realized until today that truth could be a death sentence. By midnight, the footage was backed up, encrypted on 2 drives, uploaded to a private cloud folder. He told himself that was enough. But sleep wouldn't come. The city outside was restless, helicopters thumping overhead, voices echoing from the streets. He opened his window slightly. Down below, someone was shouting through a megaphone. Protest chants, raw and rhythmic, bouncing off the concrete walls. He picked up his phone. Notifications stacked endlessly. Texts, tweets, news alerts. Breaking. Civilian reportedly shot by LAPD during misunderstood altercation. Police source claims suspect resisted arrest. No body cam footage available at this time. Ethan's pulse spiked. No body cam footage. They were already burying it. He scrolled. One blurry photo surfaced online. Marcus's body barely visible, police forming a ring around it. The headline used words like incident and unclear circumstances. He threw the phone onto the bed and stood up, pacing. It wasn't unclear. He saw it. He filmed it. His thoughts raced. Guilt, fear, fury all tangled. Amira's scream wouldn't leave his head. He whispered to himself, if I don't post this, no one will know the truth. But another voice answered, Danny's. You know what happens when people leak this kind of thing. He paced to the window again. Down the street, small groups had gathered, candles glowing like scattered stars, chants rising now. Justice for Marcus. Say his name. Ethan's breath caught. Someone already knew his name. He didn't remember deciding to do it. It just happened. Muscle memory, instinct, conviction born from anger. He opened his laptop again and logged into his channel. Title: The Truth They Won't Show You. Description: no filters, no edits, just reality. Viewer discretion advised. He hesitated, cursor hovering over the upload button. He thought of Amira's face, of Marcus's final breath, of the silence that would follow if he stayed quiet. He clicked upload. Progress bar, 0%, 3%, 8%. He stared, barely breathing. Then, a loud knock on the door. He froze. Zane looked up from the couch, startled. You expecting anyone? Ethan shook his head. The knock came again, harder this time. Open up. LAPD. Zane's eyes went wide. Oh, hell no. Ethan scrambled, yanking the drives from the laptop, tucking one into his pocket, the other under the couch cushion. The upload was at 47%. We gotta bounce, Zane hissed. The knocking became pounding. We have a warrant. Open the door. Ethan unplugged the camera, grabbed the laptop, and bolted for the fire escape. Zane followed. The metal groaned under their weight as they climbed down. Below, the alley was dim and wet, trash scattered like forgotten secrets. Go, go, Zane whispered, pointing toward the street. Ethan glanced back. Lights flashed through the window blinds upstairs, voices shouting. The laptop hummed in his hand, still uploading via mobile tether. 72%. They ran. Through side streets, over fences, past a mural of angel wings now half covered in police tape. The sound of sirens followed like ghosts. When they finally stopped, lungs burning, they were behind an abandoned warehouse near the river. Ethan collapsed against the wall, gasping. The laptop beeped softly. Upload complete. He stared at the screen in disbelief. It's live. Zane blinked. You actually did it? Yeah. They both looked toward the city skyline. From here, L.A. looked almost peaceful, a sea of lights, unaware that a storm had just begun. Ethan's phone buzzed endlessly, notifications stacking like falling dominoes. "Bro, this video is everywhere. News just picked it up. People are marching downtown." Zane exhaled shakily. "You realize they're gonna come for you now, right?" Ethan nodded slowly. "Then they'll have to find me first." He looked back at the glowing skyline, at the city of angels, burning not with fire, but with truth finally breaking free. But even as he watched, something shifted in the air. A new sound rising beneath the chants and sirens. Not police, not protesters. Distant, mechanical, like heavy rotors. Zane frowned. "What the hell is that?" A shadow swept across the river, blotting out the streetlights for a second. Ethan's phone buzzed again, this time a text from Danny. "They're calling it fake news. Anonymous sources say they're tracking the uploader's location. You need to disappear. Now." He looked up. The shadow returned, larger this time, circling. And for the first time since the shooting, Ethan realized this wasn't just a story anymore. This was war. Rain began to fall, thin and sour with smog, turning the alley behind the warehouse into a mirror of trembling light. Ethan pressed his back to the wall, clutching the laptop to his chest. His breath came in shallow bursts. Each drop felt like static on his skin. Zane peered around the corner. "Helicopters are circling downtown. They're locking down everything south of Pico. Bro, your video just broke 1 million views." Ethan didn't answer. His phone buzzed again. Hundreds of notifications flooding in, a tide of voices, hashtags, fury. Justice for Marcus. Truth in L.A. No more silence. He felt both terrified and alive, like he'd just set the world on fire and was standing too close to the flames. A flicker of light washed across the alley, blue and red. "Move," Zane hissed. They darted across the street, slipping between abandoned cars. The air was thick with the smell of wet asphalt and smoke from small fires starting to bloom around the blocks. The hum of the helicopter grew louder. A searchlight flaring down the street, sweeping over shattered glass and torn posters. Ethan ducked behind a vending machine. His pulse pounded in his ears. Zane leaned close. "They're not just cops. I saw tactical gear, Homeland, maybe FBI." Ethan's voice was hoarse. "All for one video?" Zane gave him a look that was equal parts fear and awe. "You didn't just post a video. You detonated the system." Downtown, 12:43 a.m. Inside LAPD command, Captain Hayes stood in front of a wall of screens, the room buzzing with chatter. Each monitor showed different feeds, protests growing, buildings tagged with Marcus's name, crowds surging around City Hall. A young officer stepped forward. "Sir, we confirmed the video source, uploaded from a mobile tether, possibly near the River District. We're tracing IP now." "Any confirmation on the authenticity?" Hayes asked, jaw tight. The tech analyst hesitated. "Sir, it's real. No edits, no filters. The timestamp matches the incident logs. Bodycam data for the responding officers is missing." Hayes's fingers twitched. Missing. That word again. "Who was on that patrol?" he asked quietly. "Lieutenant Morse and Officers Daniels and Keller." Hayes exhaled slowly. He knew Morse, ambitious, reckless, one of the Brotherhood types, who thought rules were for the weak. "Get me Keller in interrogation now," he ordered. As the officer hurried off, Hayes turned back to the main screen. The footage looped silently, Marcus reaching for his daughter's hand, the flash of gunfire, her scream. Hayes closed his eyes briefly. The sound of the rain on the station roof blended with the rising chant from outside. "Say his name," he whispered under his breath. "Christ, this city's going to burn." South Central, 1:07 a.m. Amira sat on a couch too big for her small frame. wearing a faded hoodie that smelled faintly of peppermint and laundry soap. The apartment belonged to an older woman named Miss Renee, a community organizer who had found Amira in the chaos hours earlier. The TV flickered with news reports, split screens of protests and pundits arguing over the incident. Renee handed her a cup of warm cocoa. "Drink, baby. You got to keep your strength." Amira stared at the cup. "They keep calling it a mistake. My daddy didn't do anything." Renee's eyes softened. "I know, child. I know." Outside, sirens wailed. The city pulsed like a living heart, grief and rage thumping in its veins. Renee turned the volume down as a new segment aired. The leaked footage, uploaded by an anonymous source, has now reached over 5 million views. Amira looked up sharply. "Anonymous?" Renee nodded. "Whoever that was, they were brave. Your daddy's story's out there now. People can't pretend they didn't see." Amira's fingers tightened around the mug. Then maybe God sent them. Koreatown, 1:22 a.m. Ethan and Zane ducked into a 24-hour laundromat. The flicker of the fluorescent lights painted their faces ghost white. A few people huddled inside, 2 teens watching the protests on their phones, an old man muttering to himself, the air heavy with detergent and tension. Ethan dropped into a plastic chair, the laptop open on his knees. The screen was filled with a flood of messages, reporters, activists, strangers thanking him, others threatening him. Zane paced. "You can't stay in one place, man. They'll triangulate your signal." Ethan rubbed his eyes. "Then we keep moving. I can't let them silence it again." Zane scoffed. "Again?" Ethan looked up, eyes dark with something deeper than fear. "History. This isn't the first time they've buried a video like this. My dad filmed one 20 years ago. Same department, same lies. They erased him. I'm not letting that happen again." Zane stared, speechless. "So this is personal." "It's always been personal," Ethan said quietly. "They just didn't know my name until tonight." The laundromat TV suddenly switched to a live feed. A protest outside LAPD headquarters. Dozens of people chanting, holding signs, faces lit by smartphone screens. The ticker at the bottom read, "Breaking. Unconfirmed reports of LAPD officers resigning after video leak." Ethan's breath caught. "Resigning?" Zane leaned closer. "Yeah, but look." He pointed at the corner of the screen. A line of riot police advancing, shields up, batons raised. The crowd didn't move. Someone threw a bottle. The line surged. The sound erupted from the TV. Screams, shouts, chaos. Ethan stood abruptly. "It's happening." "Where are you going?" He slung the backpack over his shoulder. "Downtown. If this city's going to burn, I'm not hiding from it." Zane cursed. "You're insane." "Maybe," Ethan said, pushing out the door into the rain. "But at least I'll be there to see the truth through." Downtown, 2:05 a.m. The streets looked like a war zone. Storefronts shattered, alarms wailing, graffiti blooming across concrete like scars. "Justice for Marcus" glowed in red spray paint on the side of a bus. Smoke rolled low along the street, illuminated by the flicker of fires. Ethan moved carefully through the chaos, camera rolling again. The footage was raw, real, people screaming, hugging, breaking windows, crying. The energy of a city that had finally cracked open. He turned a corner and nearly collided with a group of protesters hauling a barricade. "Yo, you filming?" one of them asked, a young man in a hoodie soaked from the rain. "Yeah," Ethan said. "Independent." "Then film this," the protester said, pointing toward the line of riot police advancing. "Let the world see who they protect." Ethan lifted the lens. The rain beaded on the glass, distorting the flashing lights into streaks of blue and red. His finger trembled over the record button. A police bullhorn barked. "Disperse immediately or force will be used." The protesters roared in reply. Bottles flew. Rubber bullets answered. Ethan ducked, filming through the chaos. The sound was deafening, the symphony of rebellion. He felt someone grab his arm, a woman's voice, urgent. "Hey, you're Ethan, right?" He turned. It was Danny, hood up, face streaked with rain and exhaustion. "Jesus," he said. "How did you find me?" "You're trending #1 on Twitter, genius," she shot back. "Half the city's looking for you. The other half's trying to save you." She dragged him behind a wrecked police van. "I've got people who can move you out of the city. You stay here, they'll bury you like the rest." Ethan shook his head. "I'm not leaving. This footage, it's not just one night. It's everything." Danny's eyes softened. "You think dying makes it mean more?" Before he could answer, a massive explosion rippled through the block, a gas main ignited by a stray canister. The shockwave threw them both to the ground. Glass rained down like glittering knives. Ethan coughed, ears ringing. Smoke billowed. People screamed, running in every direction. The city was unraveling. LAPD HQ, 2:27 a.m. Captain Hayes watched the explosion feed from a rooftop camera. His hands trembled slightly. Behind him, officers argued, some shouting for more force, others for restraint. Lieutenant Morse burst into the room, face pale, eyes bloodshot. "They're saying the video's fake, sir. Deep fake AI. We can spin this if we—" Hayes turned slowly. "You think that matters now? Look outside." Morse hesitated. "Then what do we do?" Hayes's voice was quiet, steady. "We tell the truth." The room went silent. "Sir?" He met their eyes. "I won't let this department rot from the inside anymore. Not again." Downtown, 2:45 a.m. Amira clutched Miss Renee's hand as they stepped out onto the balcony. From here, they could see the glow of downtown. Fires reflecting off the low clouds, the city crying and screaming at once. Renee's phone buzzed nonstop. "The mayor's calling for curfew," she said. "Like that's going to stop this." Amira looked up at the sky. "He's watching, you know." Renee frowned. "Who, baby?" "My daddy. He said truth don't stay buried, it just waits." Ethan stood at the edge of a burning intersection, camera raised. The reflection of fire danced across his lens. His hands were steady now. Fear had turned to purpose. Behind him, Danny yelled, "They're coming!" Dozens of riot officers advanced through the smoke. One of them aimed a tear gas launcher. Ethan didn't move. "Keep it rolling," he said quietly. "People have to see this." The first canister flew, spinning, hissing. Ethan stepped back, choking, eyes burning, but he didn't drop the camera. Through the haze, he captured a frame that would later define the night. A lone protester holding up Marcus's photo as flames rose behind him. History, caught in 24 frames per second. A hand grabbed Ethan's shoulder, Danny's again. "We have to move now." He nodded weakly, coughing, following her through the smoke toward an alley. The city behind them howled. Somewhere above, another helicopter hovered, brighter, lower. Danny looked up. "They've got your location." Ethan clenched the camera tighter. "Then let's give them something worth finding." They disappeared into the labyrinth of streets as the spotlight found the spot where they'd just stood. The last thing Ethan heard before the noise swallowed everything was a single chant rising over the chaos. Millions of voices unified, raw, unbroken. "Justice for Marcus." Rainwater dripped from the corrugated metal roof, streaking the dim light of the abandoned warehouse where Ethan and Danny crouched. The air smelled of damp concrete and mold, mixed with the faint, acrid tang of burning rubber from the streets above. Every so often, a distant explosion echoed through the city like a groan of the earth, sending tremors through the floor. Ethan leaned against a support beam, the laptop cradled in his lap. The screen reflected the flickering fluorescent light above, casting his face in alternating shadows. Notifications continued to pour in. Social media feeds, DMs, encrypted messages from activists, and emails from journalists begging for verification. The video had gone global within hours. The city outside had transformed overnight into a simmering storm, and he felt caught at its epicenter. Danny pressed a damp rag against his forehead. "You're shaking. You're not just scared. You're running on adrenaline. And soon that's gonna crash." "I can't stop," Ethan said, voice hoarse, eyes still fixed on the screen. "If I stop now, everything we've done, everything he died for, it means nothing." Danny's voice softened. "And if you keep going like this, you'll burn out before anyone even sees the truth. You have to pace yourself, Ethan. Trust me." She reached into a canvas bag and pulled out 2 bottles of water, handing one to him. Ethan took it gratefully, swallowing in gulps while Danny's gaze swept over the room. The warehouse had been converted into a temporary safe house by a small network of community activists, the kind of people who had quietly moved in when the city's neglected corners became breeding grounds for injustice. Stacks of canned food, blankets, and sleeping bags lined the far wall. Maps and printed tweets were pinned to a corkboard, outlining evacuation routes and protest hotspots. "This is real," Danny muttered, almost to herself. "People aren't just watching anymore. They're acting, but so are they. And if the LAPD figures out you're here, we're sitting ducks." Ethan nodded, drained but alert. He set the laptop aside and flexed his fingers, which were still numb from clutching it during the escape. "Then we stay off the grid. We split up. Small movements. But I can't let them erase this." Danny crouched next to him, brushing a damp strand of hair from her face. "You need allies. You can't do this alone. People are scared, but they're ready to help if they know where to go." Ethan rubbed his temple. "I don't know who to trust anymore. Everyone looks like a potential leak." "Then you trust your gut," she said. "And if your gut's wrong, you adapt." Outside, the city moaned. Fires flickered through the foggy streets, casting twisted shadows against the buildings. Helicopters hummed overhead, their searchlights scanning the streets for any movement. Riot police pushed through barricades, faces stoic but tense, batons swinging in rhythm with the crowd's agitation. From the warehouse, Ethan and Danny could hear the faint chants of protesters echoing up from the streets below. "Justice for Marcus! Justice for Marcus!" The words vibrated through the air, shaking the walls of the building and Ethan's chest. He pressed a hand to the brick and closed his eyes, imagining the little girl clutching her father's picture as firelight danced on her tear-streaked face. "Amira," he whispered, the name almost lost in the rain. Danny looked at him, her eyes narrowing. "We've got someone watching her. Safe house in South Central. They'll keep her hidden. But you've got to focus on the footage now. People need proof, more than just one video. They're building a narrative, and we have to control it before misinformation spreads." The first step was verification. Ethan connected the laptop to a secure hotspot and opened multiple... Journalists were contacting him from around the country. Each one had the same question. "Can we confirm this? Are you willing to share raw footage?" He hesitated. "If I share it directly, they could track me. Then we do it safely," Danny said. She crouched behind him, fingers flying across the keyboard. "We split the raw files across multiple servers, anonymized. No metadata, no IP, nothing. It's like building a digital bunker." As they worked, a knock echoed from the side door. Both froze. The warehouse was quiet except for the rain, and every creak of the old building set Ethan's nerves on edge. Danny motioned him down. She crept to the door, peering through a cracked window. 2 figures stood in the shadows, rain dripping from their hoods. "Who is it?" Ethan whispered. Danny opened the door slightly. One figure stepped forward, revealing the sharp features of a man in his late 40s, a community organizer with piercing eyes and a voice like gravel. "We know you're hiding someone," he said. "We know about the girl." Ethan swallowed. "Who?" The man shook his head. "Names don't matter right now. We just want her safe. And we can help you get this footage out there without you getting burned." Danny stepped aside, letting him in. "They've got connections," she whispered to Ethan. "We need this if we're going to survive the next 48 hours. Meanwhile, across the city, Captain Hayes felt the walls closing in. The footage was spreading faster than any internal spin or PR campaign. Even loyal officers were questioning the narrative. "Sir, multiple precincts are refusing to respond to downtown," one lieutenant reported. "They're saying the chain of command is compromised. Officers are scared for their careers. Some are scared for their lives." Hayes rubbed his face. The system he had trusted, the network of loyalty and silence, was crumbling. He glanced at the monitor showing protesters chanting outside LAPD HQ. Something primal rose in him, a mixture of shame, fear, and determination. "This city's broken," he said softly, to no one in particular. "And if we don't fix it, it will burn beyond repair." Back at the warehouse, Ethan reviewed footage from different angles: street cameras, social media clips uploaded by citizens, shaky videos from inside nearby stores. Each frame confirmed what he had witnessed. Marcus Hall hadn't resisted. His hands had been raised. His daughter's cries had been real. "We need context," Danny said. "Eyewitnesses, timestamps, anything to prove it wasn't staged. Otherwise, they'll just call it fake news and bury it." Ethan nodded. "Then we go public with witnesses, but carefully." Danny bit her lip. Careful isn't enough anymore. People are already seeing what they want to see. The city's split down the middle, half on the streets, half hiding behind TVs and phones. We're about to push them over the edge. Hours passed. The rain slowed, leaving a fine mist hanging in the alleys. Ethan and Danny moved quietly, slipping past shuttered storefronts and empty sidewalks toward a safe meeting point with activists. Each turn was calculated. They could feel the eyes of the city on them, some hidden, some searching openly. Every shadow was a potential threat. When they reached the rendezvous, a dozen activists were waiting. Maps, laptops, phones, and backpacks littered the room. Amira's guardian, Miss Renee, was there, standing protectively in a corner. The little girl peeked from behind her shoulder, wide-eyed but calm, clutching a small stuffed bear. "Ethan," Renee said, voice low, "you did the right thing, but it's about to get worse. The police, some of them are planning to move tonight. They want the footage, and they want control of the narrative." Ethan swallowed hard. "Then we make sure they don't get it, and we make sure the world sees
A young
the
activist
truth."
stepped forward. "There's a network of independent journalists ready to broadcast this live. If we cut the feeds now, it'll go global in minutes. But you're the target. You need protection." Ethan looked at Danny. She nodded. "Then we go underground. Safe houses, code words, the works. We vanish. And then we hit them where it hurts. The truth everywhere. At once." Outside, the city groaned. Helicopters circled overhead. Sirens sounded like distant thunder, and fires reflected off puddles, painting the streets orange and red. Ethan watched from the warehouse window as protesters clashed with police barricades, chanting the same words over and over. "Justice for Marcus, justice for Marcus." He clenched his fists. "They're not just fighting for him," he said quietly. "They're fighting for every Marcus this city has buried." Danny stepped beside him. "And we're going to make sure they win. But we have to survive first." Ethan glanced at Amira, clutching her bear, eyes wide but unbroken. "Then we survive, and we finish this." A rumble shook the building, distant, mechanical. The faint whir of rotors grew louder, slicing through the night like knives. Ethan looked up. "They're here." Danny gritted her teeth. "Time to disappear." The warehouse lights flickered. Outside, the city waited, poised on the knife's edge between chaos and justice. And somewhere above, someone was already watching. The city had changed overnight. Streetlights flickered like dying stars over asphalt rivers lined with fire and smoke. Helicopters hummed and dipped across the skyline, searchlights slicing the night as if trying to carve the truth from darkness. Sirens screamed continuously, a low, grinding chorus that vibrated through the bones of every building. Downtown Los Angeles was no longer just a city. It had become a battlefield of information, fear, and raw fury. Ethan crouched on the rooftop of a nondescript warehouse in South Central, Danny at his side, her eyes scanning the streets below. The network of activists had provided safe passage, but the city's unrest was suffocating. Every movement was calculated. Every sound could signal danger. Ethan tightened his grip on the laptop, now secured inside a waterproof case. The footage was live streaming to encrypted servers across the country, but the adrenaline from the previous night still coursed through him. He didn't sleep. He hadn't eaten. Sleep was a luxury in a city on the edge of implosion. Downtown is completely blocked, Danny said, pointing toward the orange glow in the distance. Smoke rose from burning cars and debris. They're using tear gas now. I just got word that half a precinct refused to respond. Some cops are on strike, refusing orders. Ethan exhaled slowly. So the whole system is cracking. She nodded. And it's not just the streets. The feeds are flooding in. Civilians live streaming, reporters posting verified clips. Social media is about to explode nationally. Ethan shifted uncomfortably. We can't control it all. The narrative is out of our hands now, but we can make sure it doesn't get buried. A distant sound made them freeze. A low mechanical hum, growing louder. The whir of rotors overhead. Ethan peered into the misty night. A police helicopter, blacked out and menacing, cut a path through the fog. Its spotlight flicked across the rooftop where they hid. They're looking for us, Danny whispered, eyes narrowing. Ethan nodded. Then we move. South Central, safe house below. The city moved like a living creature. Protesters surged through the streets, their chants echoing against concrete walls, bouncing off glass facades. Justice for Marcus! Justice for Marcus! The name had become a mantra, a symbol of fury against a system that had long ignored it. Flames licked abandoned cars, lighting the faces of young and old alike. Some marched with homemade shields, others clutched smartphones, documenting every moment. Amira sat in a dimly lit room at the safe house, holding her stuffed bear tightly. Miss Renee knelt beside her, whispering reassurances. Your daddy's story is going to be heard, Amira. Millions of people are watching. He won't be forgotten. Amira's lips trembled. But what if they come for us? For me? Renee's hand rested firmly on her shoulder. Then we make sure you're safe, and we make sure the truth reaches every corner of this city. Marcus's name isn't just a story. It's a movement now. Outside, through rain-slicked streets, activists coordinated the flow of information. Small teams navigated alleys and rooftops, using encrypted channels to relay updates. Every street had multiple eyes on it. Every turn could be a trap. But the energy was unstoppable, a living force of grief and rage transforming into action. Rooftops. Observation point. Ethan and Danny moved carefully along the rooftops, stepping from one fire escape to another. The city below had become a chessboard, and they were pieces trying to stay alive. Each step echoed softly, blending with the distant explosions, screams, and police sirens. Ethan, we need to split the feeds, Danny said. The more servers we use, the harder it is for them to shut this down. And the more the people see, the harder it is to ignore. He nodded. We can't just fight for Marcus. We fight for every kid, every family who's been silenced. The wind whipped against their faces, carrying the smell of smoke and wet asphalt.
Ethan peered down a narrow alley. The glow of fires reflected in puddles, revealing silhouettes of protesters clashing with police. Riot shields raised, batons swinging, tear gas canisters hissing. Civilians fought back with whatever they could grab, using barricades and shouted orders. Ethan raised his camera, capturing the chaos, the bravery, the fear, all at once. "This is real," he whispered. "The world has to see this." LAPD Command. Internal strain. Inside LAPD Command, the air was thick with tension. Captain Hayes watched the live feeds, his fingers drumming against the table. Officers argued over strategy. Some wanted total suppression. Others argued for restraint. Half the city's precincts were refusing to respond. The trust between departments had fractured. Lieutenant Morse approached, urgency in his step. "Sir, they've confirmed the uploader. He's moving through safe houses in South Central. We can triangulate him." Hayes's eyes narrowed. "And what will that achieve? The footage is out there. Millions have seen it. The public knows the truth." Morse's jaw tightened. "If we capture him, we control the narrative. We can spin this, make it look like he's the instigator." Hayes shook his head slowly. "No, not this time. If we keep covering up, the city will burn. We either face the truth, or we fall with it." The room went silent. A murmur ran through the ranks. Hayes's words carried weight, even as the tension inside the department threatened to boil over. Safe house. Strategic planning. Ethan, Danny, and the network of activists huddled around a table, the laptop streaming footage to multiple secure servers. Maps, cell phones, and radio equipment were scattered across the surface. One young activist, Leo, spoke urgently. "They're moving tonight, not just to stop the protests, to get the uploader. We have limited time to stabilize our channels." Ethan ran a hand through his hair. "Then we need to split. Danny, you take the city center feeds. I'll move with Amira and Miss Renee to another safe house. We stay mobile, we stay unpredictable." Danny nodded. "And the activists will rotate. We can keep it going long enough for the national networks to pick it up." The girl's eyes flicked toward Amira, who clutched her bear like a talisman. "We're doing this for her too," Ethan said softly. "For every kid who doesn't get justice." Renee whispered, "She's strong, just like her father. And tonight, the city will remember him." City streets, escalation. The streets had become unrecognizable. Fires, overturned cars, broken glass. Helicopters circled, searchlights slicing through the mist. Protesters built barricades, chanting, singing, and defying orders. The energy was relentless, a wave that refused to break. Ethan moved with precision, camera rolling, documenting each act. A man lifting a fallen officer to safety, a teen shielding another from tear gas, the faces of mothers screaming for justice. "This is bigger than us," Danny said side by side with him. "This is the city speaking, finally." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Then let's make sure it's heard." The confrontation. A loud explosion rippled through an intersection. Ethan and Danny hit the ground. Smoke rose, flames casting grotesque shadows. From the haze, a squad of police advanced, shields raised. A loudspeaker barked, "Disperse immediately! Cease unlawful assembly or force will be used." Protesters roared in defiance. Bottles flew. Tear gas canisters hissed. Amidst the chaos, a figure stumbled, a young girl holding Marcus's photo, framed against the smoke and fire. Ethan raised the camera, capturing it all. This is why we fight," he whispered. Danny grabbed his shoulder. "Time to move." They retreated through an alley, breathing hard, adrenaline pumping. Flames reflected in the puddles at their feet, mirrored by the glow of streetlights and neon signs. The city around them was alive, a symphony of fear, hope, rage, and courage. Ethan climbed to a higher rooftop with Danny, looking out over a city ablaze yet alive. Fires, protests, and sirens merged into a strange beauty. His fingers tightened on the laptop case. "They'll try to silence us," Danny said. "But the footage is already everywhere. People are seeing what we saw." Ethan's jaw clenched. They can try, but they can't erase truth. Above, a helicopter's shadow passed, a reminder that the hunt was far from over. Below, the city roared, chanting Marcus's name in defiance, refusing to be silent. Ethan whispered, almost to himself, "This is just the beginning." The city groaned under the weight of its own fury. Rain had stopped, but the air was thick with smoke, the acrid tang of burning rubber, and the metallic scent of fear. Downtown Los Angeles had become a war zone. Streets littered with debris, cars flipped, glass shimmering like jagged teeth. The sky was an unnatural orange, reflecting the fires that raged from building to building. Above, helicopters circled like vultures, searchlights cutting through the haze. Ethan crouched behind the shattered wall of a coffee shop, Danny at his side. His chest heaved, breath ragged, fingers gripping the laptop case like a lifeline. Below them, the crowds moved like living currents, some chanting, some clashing with police barricades, some frozen in terror as tear gas billowed through the streets. "They're tightening the noose," Danny said, her voice low. "The helicopters are coordinating with ground units. If we don't move soon, we're trapped." Ethan glanced down at the street. Smoke and fire reflected in the faces of the protesters, their determination raw and defiant. "Then we give them a reason to chase," he said quietly. "We make sure they know who's behind the footage. We make sure the truth survives." Danny's eyes narrowed. "Ethan, you don't get to control the chaos. We survive it." He nodded, but his eyes never left the movement below. Somewhere in the crowd, Amira's story had become the spark for the city's rage. Every chant, every flare, every shout was a tribute to Marcus Hall, and a challenge to those who had tried to bury him. Miss Renee and a small group of activists huddled in a dimly lit basement safe house, Amira sitting on her lap, the stuffed bear clutched tightly. The TV flickered with live feeds, riots, clashes, the city in flames. "Miss Renee," whispered one of the activists, "they're trying to locate Ethan and the girl. They've got tactical units moving in from multiple precincts." Renee's face tightened. "Then we keep them safe. No mistakes. They can't take her from us." Amira looked up, eyes wide and unblinking. "They won't hurt us, right?" Renee pulled her close. "Not if we do our job right." Outside, the city screamed. Fires reflected off windows, sirens roared, and helicopters hovered low, lights sweeping across rooftops. Every alleyway, every corner, every shadow could hold a threat. But the community had mobilized, volunteers patrolling streets, relaying information, guiding civilians, protecting the vulnerable. The city was alive with resistance. Ethan and Danny moved along the rooftops, staying just out of the searchlight beams. Below, fire and chaos mingled with the sound of chanting and gunfire. The city had become a theater of war, and they were actors in the center of it. "They're not just looking for the footage anymore," Danny said, scanning the streets. "They want you. They want you dead or captured." Ethan's jaw clenched. "Then they'll have to find me first." He raised the laptop, connecting it to a portable hotspot, and began broadcasting to multiple servers simultaneously. Every feed carried the footage, every frame a testament to Marcus's death and the city's rage. A shadow passed overhead. Ethan froze, the low thrum of a helicopter rotor. They were close. Too close. Danny pointed to a nearby fire escape. "We move now!" They dropped into the alley below, moving with precision, staying within shadows, navigating debris-strewn streets. The chaos around them was a living thing, unpredictable, dangerous, yet strangely beautiful in its defiance. The crowd below had grown denser,
fueled by outrage and grief. Protesters clashed with riot police, barricades erected from abandoned cars and metal scaffolding. Smoke swirled like spirits across the streets. Tear gas canisters hissed, bouncing off concrete and metal. Shouts of "Justice for Marcus" reverberated against buildings, mixing with the wail of sirens and the roar of flames.
Ethan moved through the streets carefully, documenting every act. A man helped a fallen officer to his feet. A teenager shielded a smaller child from tear gas. A mother screamed over the chaos, dragging her son away from the front lines. "This is bigger than us," Danny said, stepping beside him. "This is the city fighting for the truth." Ethan's fingers tightened around the camera. "Then we make sure the world sees it." From a nearby rooftop, another figure watched. An unseen sniper, eyes locked on Ethan and Danny. Their lens caught every movement, every calculated step, every pulse of adrenaline. The whir of the sniper's rifle echoed in Ethan's ears only for a moment. Instinct took over. Danny shoved him to the ground just as the shot rang out. Concrete splintered near their feet. The bullet ricocheted, embedding itself in a metal pole. Ethan's heart slammed against his ribs. "They're here," he hissed. Danny grabbed his arm. "We move! Now!" Through alleyways and firelit streets they fled, the chaos around them providing cover. Protesters surged past, some yelling, some crying, some clashing with police. Smoke stung their eyes. Every step was a gamble. Every corner could hide death. The sniper's shadow flickered on the walls, tracing their path. Ethan's mind raced. The footage, Amira, the city, Marcus. He couldn't fail. Miss Renee guided Amira through secret corridors, away from the city's main chaos. Volunteers patrolled the perimeter. The little girl's eyes were wide but resolute, the weight of her father's death already etched into her young face. "Almost there," Renee whispered. "Keep quiet. Don't make a sound." Amira clutched the bear tighter. "Daddy's story. People are watching, right?" "Yes," Renee said softly. "They're watching, and they're listening." Outside, fires raged, sirens screamed, and the city writhed in turmoil. The echoes of "Justice for Marcus" rose higher, a tidal wave against a system that had tried to suppress it. Ethan and Danny ducked into another building, catching their breath. Their eyes scanned every movement. The sniper's position was still unknown. "We need to split," Danny said. "It's too dangerous to move together. We draw attention away from the safe house. You take the footage, I'll lead them on a chase." Ethan shook his head. "No, we stick together. The footage is only safe if I'm with it. And you." Danny exhaled sharply. "Then we move together, carefully. Every step counts." Through darkened alleys and debris-strewn streets they moved, blending with protesters and shadows alike. Flames reflected in puddles, painting distorted images of chaos on the walls. Helicopters scanned the streets, police shouted orders, and the city itself seemed to tremble beneath the weight of its own fury. Inside LAPD command, Hayes watched the feeds, his hands clenched. The city was out of control. Officers muttered about loyalty, fear, and the moral collapse of the department. Some wanted force, some wanted retreat. But Hayes knew the truth. This was bigger than protocol, bigger than obedience. "They've exposed the system," he murmured. "They've shown the world what we've been hiding." Lieutenant Morse approached. "Sir, if we don't act, they'll control the narrative completely. We can spin this, or we can lose everything." Hayes's eyes burned with intensity. "No spin. We face it. We fix it. Or the city burns, and nothing we do matters." The officers exchanged uneasy glances. The walls of the system had cracked. Hayes knew this was the moment of reckoning. For the department, for the city, for everyone. Ethan and Danny reached a rooftop overlooking the chaos. Flames licked nearby buildings. Protesters clashed with police,
and the sound of helicopters and sirens filled the air.
Ethan raised the camera, capturing the surreal spectacle, the city in its rawest form, alive with rage, grief, and hope. Every chant, every act of defiance, every tear was immortalized in digital frames. "They're closing in," Danny warned. Ethan nodded. "Let them come. The world is watching now. We can't be silenced." Below, a protester raised Marcus's photo high. The flames reflected on his face, determination etched into every line. Ethan whispered to himself, "This is for every Marcus the city tried to forget." A bullet ricocheted from a nearby building. The sniper was still out there, still waiting. Ethan's eyes locked on the chaos below. "Time to finish this," Danny gritted her teeth. "Then we move, now!" They disappeared into the shadows of the city, the firelight casting long reflections across wet streets. Behind them, the city roared, unbroken, unafraid, demanding justice. The hunt had begun. The first light of dawn filtered weakly through the haze of smoke and ash, casting Los Angeles in a gray, eerie glow. Fires still burned in scattered pockets, smoldering and stubborn, and the city's streets were littered with debris, remnants of a night that had felt apocalyptic. The distant hum of helicopters and sirens was quieter now, replaced by the murmur of a city waking to the consequences of its own anger. Ethan crouched behind a crumbling wall, Danny beside him, both soaked in sweat and grime. Their eyes scanned the streets below, where protesters had transformed into a determined, organized wave, moving strategically to protect the journalists broadcasting the footage. Every movement was calculated. Every step mattered. "We're running out of time," Danny muttered. "The networks need to get this footage before it's intercepted. And the police, they'll regroup soon." Ethan's jaw tightened. He glanced down at the laptop, connected to multiple encrypted servers, feeding live footage to every major outlet willing to air the truth. Marcus Hall's story was no longer just a video. It was the heartbeat of the city. "Then we finish this," Ethan said softly. "No hesitation. No second guesses." Danny nodded. "For Marcus, for Amira, for every person they've tried to silence." Miss Renee and Amira were waiting in the safe house, tension palpable in the air. Amira clutched her father's photograph, eyes wide but resolute. "They're out there," Renee whispered. "But they can't touch us. Not if we stay smart." Amira's lips quivered. "Will Daddy's story? Will everyone see it?" Renee smiled faintly. "They will, sweetie. Millions are already watching. They're seeing what we've been saying for years. Justice isn't here yet, but it's coming." Outside, the city was still volatile. Helicopters circled overhead, but the protesters had learned to anticipate them, moving strategically to avoid direct confrontation. Fires still burned, reflecting in puddles along streets filled with debris, broken glass, and overturned vehicles. The chaos had become a form of protection, a shield for those carrying the truth. Ethan and Danny had ascended a higher rooftop overlooking a wide intersection. Below, crowds surged in organized chaos, their chants unbroken despite tear gas and rubber bullets from police attempting to regain control. "Look at them," Ethan murmured, eyes fixed on the people below. "They're not just angry. They're awake." Danny adjusted the laptop and camera feed. "And the world is seeing it. We've gone national. They can't ignore this anymore." From the shadows of a nearby building, an independent journalist, Layla, emerged. She carried a satellite uplink and additional cameras. "I got your feed, and we've connected to every major network. They'll broadcast live within minutes. You did this." Ethan shook his head. "We didn't do this alone. The city did. The people did." Layla's eyes scanned the horizon. "You need to move soon. Tactical units are reorganizing. They'll try to take the uplink offline. We only have a small window." The streets below were a controlled storm of fury and purpose. Protesters held lines, forming human barriers to protect journalists and activists moving through the chaos. Small groups cleared debris to prevent blockages. Others used umbrellas, boards, and shields to deflect tear gas canisters. Ethan and Danny descended from the rooftop, moving with precision. Every step had to be calculated. The sniper from the previous night was still a threat, but their focus was clear: deliver the footage and ensure Amira's safety. A small squad of officers approached from the north, shields raised, but hesitant. Within the department, lines had blurred. Not all officers supported the violent crackdown. Some had even refused orders. The city had fractured their loyalty, forcing some to reconsider their allegiance to protocol over justice. Ethan spotted the squad and whispered, "We go left." Shadows. Danny followed, and they slipped through alleys and debris-strewn streets, using fire-lit fog and smoke to mask their movement. The world below was alive. Chants, screams, shouts, cameras flashing. Marcus Hall's name reverberated, becoming a symbol stronger than any weapon. At the safe house, Miss Renee and Amira prepared to move. Volunteers had cleared a route, guiding them through back alleys and side streets. Amira's hand gripped the bear tightly. "They can't stop us now," Renee said. "The truth is already out there. They can try to silence us, but the world is watching." Amira's eyes shimmered with understanding. "We're going to win?" Renee smiled softly. "We're already winning. People are listening. People are acting. And your father's story will change the city forever." Ethan and Danny reached a vantage point overlooking downtown. Helicopters swirled, tactical units repositioned, and riot police tried to regain control. But the protesters had learned, adapted, and now formed protective lines around journalists and activists. Ethan raised the camera, capturing the scene in full view. Smoke and fire painted faces with light and shadow, every expression raw and unfiltered. Danny fed live commentary into the microphone. "People need to see this," Ethan said. "Not edited, not censored. Every single truth, every moment." Below, a young man raised Marcus's photo, holding it high above the chaos. Ethan's heart clenched. The city had become a living testament to the injustice that had ignited it. Back at LAPD HQ, Captain Hayes watched the feeds in silence. Tactical teams were in place, but the city had already shifted beyond control. Half the department refused to engage, some openly protecting journalists and protesters. "They've exposed us," Hayes muttered. "There's no hiding it. The city knows. The nation knows. And if we don't act with transparency, we lose everything." A lieutenant leaned forward. "Sir, this could destroy us, but it could also rebuild trust if handled correctly." Hayes's eyes were steely. "Then we choose justice. We stop covering. We stop lying. And we make sure Marcus's death means something. It's too late for anything else." Ethan and Danny reached the final broadcast point, a high rooftop overlooking the city's core. Satellite uplinks transmitted the footage in real time. Every network connected, every major platform alive with Marcus's story. "We did it," Danny whispered, voice tight with exhaustion. "The city will see. They can't deny it anymore." Ethan looked down at the streets, flames reflecting in eyes of protesters, journalists, and officers alike. "It's bigger than any of us," he said. "It's about the people now. They'll take it from here." The drone of helicopters and the occasional flash of police lights didn't deter them. They had delivered the truth, the fall of silence, the rise of justice. By noon, the city's mood had shifted. Protesters began to march in orderly formations. Press conferences aired. National networks streamed footage uninterrupted. Mayor's offices and police departments scrambled to respond. But the narrative had been seized by the people. Unstoppable, undeniable. Miss Renee, Ethan, Danny, and Amira
finally found a quiet moment in a distant safe house. The little girl hugged her father's photo. "They saw him," she whispered. "They did," Ethan said. "And they'll remember him. They'll act." Danny smiled, faintly, exhausted. "We gave them the truth. That's more powerful than fear." Outside, Los Angeles was still recovering, still burning in patches, but the tide had shifted. Justice, once hidden, now had a platform, and the city, scarred but awakened, began to breathe again. Ethan watched the city from a distance, rain-dampened streets reflecting the first rays of sunlight. "It's not over," he said softly. "The fight never ends. But today we changed something. And Marcus, he won't be forgotten."
Danny put a hand on his shoulder. "The city's awake. That's victory enough for now." Amira sat between them, the weight of loss evident, but a spark of hope in her eyes. "Daddy's story. It's alive," she whispered. "Yes," Ethan replied. "Alive, and it will live on."